Afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank you all for coming out today for the State of the City address. I'm Doug Brown, the Executive Director of the Whitley County Chamber of Commerce. Very excited about the mayor speaking with us today. A few things I'd like to mention. This right now is being broadcast live on 91.5 WJHS, so we're very excited about that as well. And the video feed of this later will be shown on or be available on whitleytv.info. So a couple of pretty exciting things going on here now. So we'd like to take a few thank yous to Parkview Whitley Hospital for getting this set up for us and everything that it took to get to this point today. And CenturyLink, a great partner in the community, and very happy to have them sponsor this event today. So I don't have a whole lot I really wanted to say. I wanted to get this off to the mayor. So please welcome the mayor of Columbia City, Ryan Daniel.
Okay, thank you everybody for that warm reception. I am getting over a cold, so you're just going to have to deal with my nasally voice. I apologize for that. Welcome to my first State of the City address. 2012 was, of course, quite a year of accomplishments for our city government. Many major issues were tackled and problems were, well, at least somewhat solved. The city department heads took on a new mayor, a new council, and at least even a new couple employees that we had. 2012 will be remembered as a year that included elections. The Old Settlers Day derecho is what the experts call it, the windstorm, the NFL bounty scandal, the Tea Party effect, and the fiscal cliff. Yikes. Well, luckily, as stated earlier, CC had a much better year than many other communities. We saw an overall increase in transparency of your government through a published tax budget online and the audio minutes of each Board of Works and City Council meetings. We also had a year of first. This included the city's first Human Resources Director, Beth Igney, who's with us today, the first iPhone app for the city, the first Fall Festival, and the first full-time secretary for the park. Our utilities had an interesting year. Our wastewater department finished the latest phase of the long-term control plan, as well as a miscellaneous improvements project. Now, this was not without hardship, however. Obviously, finishing phase 2A of the long-term control plan cost the city, on top of the original $7 million price tag, an additional amount of $1 million, and lasted 1 year longer than expected. Still, Mike Cook and Jeff Walker, the city's wastewater superintendent and community development director, respectively, persevered. We also made significant progress in trying to keep sewer rates down by pushing back the timeline for phase 2B of the long-term control plan. Internally, some changes were made to ensure the retention of skilled and effective workers. The City Council passed an employee education policy that assists our workers in attaining higher education. This fits perfectly in line with the Northeast Indiana region-wide goal of growing our percentage population with post-secondary degrees. It will also allow the city to capture additional skill sets and improve our catalog of services we provide to our customers. The Board of Works and City Council also approved a new gap time policy. Gap time is the time that police officers are not scheduled to work between their scheduled hours and their 171 hours the state prescribes as overtime. The new gap time policy will allow our police officers to be compensated for these hours that are worked and will fill shortfalls in scheduling that occur with such a tenured police force. Other policies that were changed internally were done to improve city workers' interaction with the public. The first policy included the addition of ID badges. These badges must be on the person of each worker, excluding, of course, uniformed police officers and firefighters, while they're out in the field, and must be presented to a citizen if asked for. This ensures that a citizen can know whether or not the person at their door is a city worker or a scam artist. With identity theft continuing to escalate, this is just one way for us to protect our citizens. In 2012, we began the process of performance evaluations. The process began with the supervisors and employees working together to create realistic and achievable goals, while setting the bar, of course, higher. Because we believe in Columbia City that our workers should be well-rounded individuals, we asked each employee to identify professional and personal goals. After the supervisor and the employee agreed that the goals are appropriate for the position, they're assigned by each party as well as myself and the HR director. We believe that we can better support our workers through this process while also raising the bar for the work that's performed in our community. In 2012, I'm glad to see Erica's here, because in 2012, I'm proud to say the city also took home the YMCA Corporate Challenge Championship. This was one way in which our employees could engage with some of our corporate partners in the community. Now, as mentioned earlier, the Parks had a banner year, welcoming a new employee to the ranks. The department also made huge strides in addressing our pool issues. As you know, Burnworth Pool has lost thousands of dollars over the last few years and has come up to, frankly, a breaking point. After a careful analysis of the infrastructure, experts determined that the city would either have to cough up over $1 million in upgrades or face the reality that the pool would have a major failure within the next 2 to 4 years. The pool is, of course, over 50 years old, and many of our residents, maybe even some in this room, have sentimental and very personal memories of the facility. Now, this created quite a quandary for few park boards have dealt with in the past. So they decided to put the question out to the public through online and paper surveys. As the results came in, the board realized that Columbia City residents wanted to shoot for the stars. They looked forward to a new aquatics facility that could house Whitley County Consolidated School swim teams, host events, and build on successful aquatics programs throughout the county. With great leadership by Park Superintendent Mark Green, the Park Board decided to set a timeline for the Burnworth Pool, while also putting together an aquatics facility task force. Two other accomplishments that bear recognition are the extension of the Blue River Trail and the new and improved DeVoe Field. Both of these projects greatly enhance the quality of life amenities we share in Whitley County. When my administration came to office, it was easy to tell that our water department was in financial trouble. This was not due to mismanagement of budgets, however, as Mike Deere and the water department probably stretched their dollar more than any other water department in the state. Instead, it was due to a decrease in consumption. Part of the decrease was the growth in low-flow toilets and water-saving fixtures. And please don't misunderstand, I believe in recycling and conservation of our resources. However, it does damage our bottom line. Furthermore, we experienced a significant hit in vacant and foreclosed homes. When homes aren't filled, no water is being used. So, with all that being said, the previous administration began the process of raising water rates and taking out a $2 million bond for infrastructure projects that were sorely needed. While this wasn't a very popular move, I'll assure you it was the right one. We had to make sure that our utility continued to be fiscally and physically sound. The council and I approved the rate increase and are now preparing for 2013 projects, and I appreciate the council's effort on that. Economically, the year was okay. We saw slight growth in home sales, and some miscellaneous building projects took place throughout the year. We were up in the number of total permits given by the building department, while down in the estimated value of construction. To give some historical perspective to this, permits were at a 5-year high, which is a great thing. However, in 2 of the last 3 years, the city has seen estimated construction values under $2 million. So 2 of the last 3 years. In the 9 years prior to that, we only saw 1 year that was under $10 million in estimated construction value. So, by this number, you can see the lack of physical growth taking place. Overall, I think it's a fair estimate to say that while growing, construction within our community has slowed. Now, it should be noted that 9 times out of 10 in a community our size, economic growth typically comes from businesses that are already located within the community. One of these types of projects was the City Ford project. This project was actually a partnership between the Whitley County Redevelopment Commission and our own water and street sewer departments. At the end of the project, our external infrastructure was strengthened, preparing for future growth along the US 30 corridor. Now, while preparing to take the position of mayor, I saw a bit of a disconnect between our local economic development corporation and the city. Therefore, I decided to dedicate one staff person toward being the liaison between the EDC and the city. Through the role of Community Development Director, Jeff Walker was able to respond quickly to business inquiries and provide tax and utility information. This allowed us to be more proactive in our economic development approach. The position also allows us to work alongside other pseudo-governmental and non-governmental agencies. A couple last miscellaneous accomplishments of note. First, the Columbia City Youth Council was, in my opinion, a big deal because it literally gave the next generation a say in the future of Columbia City. These students have shared their thoughts, ideas, and plans on the future of our great community, and their input will be very valuable in the coming years. In 2012, we purchased new Christmas lights for the light poles throughout Columbia City. These LED lights cost the city a third of the previous light bills and saved over $200. Plus, I think they look a heck of a lot better. Also of note, the Post and Mail allowed me the opportunity to keep the public up to date with the mayor's memo. Transparency is obviously a very important issue to me, and this tool allowed me to inform the public on a multitude of issues, ranging from budgetary, animal issues, and other matters. Now, for those of you who aren't sound asleep yet, you can tell, as noted, we had a lot of accomplishments this year, 23 accomplishments to be exact. And that's not including all the little miscellaneous stuff that happens. However, much work is still left to be done. When I took this job in the beginning of 2012, I wanted to see real change. Not change that was artificial like some politicians make, not activities with a pretty little bow on it, but instead I wanted to see change that prepared our community for decades of growth. We've begun a series of projects and programs that will help beautify our community while strengthening the building blocks that are necessary for future growth. With 9 different departments, it would be maybe a bit laborious to run through every single goal and project in each of these departments. After the long litany of projects and accomplishments I just ran through, I feel it'd be maybe a bit more beneficial to highlight the ones that our residents will see and feel the impact. I also want to give a clear and realistic picture of what I see the future of Columbia City to look like. The year has already started out with one huge accomplishment in the economic development realm. Recently, Kerr Real Estate in the city, along with the EDC, announced that Dunham Sporting Goods will be moving into the old but soon-to-be renovated Scotts Building. This development will invest over $4.5 million, and the projections show a full building will bring 60 new jobs. This new development is a great improvement to the west edge of that shopping plaza and is sure to, of course, attract developments even farther to the west. I want to take a moment to thank all of our staff and the EDC staff that made that project possible, as well as Jeff Kerr, who will be a great new partner for this community. In the beginning of 2013, we also changed the parking and ordinance enforcement throughout the city. Downtown parking is always a hot button issue, no matter what community you're from. In Columbia City, we have a 3-way struggle that continues to put pressure on all involved. On one side, we have retail businesses, restaurants, merchants, individuals like that, who want consistent turnover in parking to allow their customers a short walk into the building. On another side, we have service-based businesses whose clients may spend 3 to 5 hours in their building with insurance, tax, or health issues. On the last side, we have apartment dwellers that need parking at different points of the morning, evening, and night, and thus, we try to maintain a balance between 2-hour parking for retailers and side street parking for service-based businesses and apartment dwellers. Of course, there is no perfect solution, and we will never have everyone satisfied with the parking issue. However, we consistently take a look at the parking situation and try to find good solutions to very complex issues. The ordinance enforcement change was instituted to be proactive rather than reactive. If you look at our ordinance book, you'll have many ordinances that deal with trash, scrap metal, junk vehicles, animals, weeds, and the list goes on and on. In the past, we did some enforcement of this, yet it wasn't a high priority. These laws are in place to help nurture a safe, beautiful, and neighborly environment throughout our city. So we began monitoring these issues throughout the community and continue to see some great results. In conjunction with this change, we also established an ordinance review committee. The committee is charged with going through the current ordinances and seeing which are useful, which are problematic, and which are just plain outdated. This is, again, a proactive approach to making our government work more effectively. Staying on the topic of public safety, we're in the process of hiring a police officer that will replace an officer who left the department. This new officer is in the final stages of paperwork and in the middle of his training. We hope to have him aboard sometime this summer. Furthermore, in the 2014 budget, I will be requesting from the council to hire another firefighter. Fire Chief Tom LaRue and his guys have done a noble job with a short staff, but now is the time to meet our obligations. We have fallen behind in our state-mandated duties, and with our growing population, we will only continue to fall behind. Therefore, we need to increase the manpower available and continue to adequately serve our residents. Now, I think this is also a good time to thank our volunteer firefighters. Approximately 30 of our residents, 30 to 35 depending on the day, have chosen to volunteer their time and efforts to our fire department, and we appreciate their service. Literally, without their abilities, our fire department would cease to exist, and so I thank them. Chief Longabaugh and Chief LaRue have continued to put an emphasis on training. We'll continue to train our officers and firemen in different techniques that will further their personal skills and grow our abilities to handle these issues throughout Columbia City. Finally, you may have heard that we've recently hired a new dispatcher to replace a retiree. The new dispatcher has already begun the 6-month training process, and we hope she'll be ready to go on her own sometime this summer. Our dispatchers handle everything from bomb threats to sewer backups and basically everything in between. I appreciate the work of Communications Director Terry Wary and his staff for consistently being that friendly voice on the other end of the line. Now, in our utilities, many different projects will be taking place. The Water Department, because of the bond issue, will be extending a line from the Eagle Glen development over to 100 South. This will help with some water pressure issues that some residents have experienced. The Water Department will also be partnering with the Street Sewer Department again to continue work on South Line Street. In 2013, these departments will be working on street, sidewalk, and line upgrades from Spencer Street to the railroad tracks on the south. This project is the second part of a 3-step renewal on South Line Street. In 2014, the third set of projects will focus on the area between the railroad tracks and Radio Road. Miscellaneous water main upgrades will also be taking place throughout town, again as a part of that water bond. Our wastewater utility will, unlike most of the past decade, be experiencing few major projects this year. Normal maintenance will continue throughout the year. However, it should be noted that storm clouds are on the horizon. As we know, Phase 2B is only 5 years away. This project is currently projected to cost the city $7 to $10 million, dollars that we frankly don't have. While I know you've heard it before, there is no escaping the fact that the project is state and federally mandated. We're forced to make these improvements required by the Clean Water Act. Thus, we have to pay for it somehow. We're currently assessing the situation and trying to find any and all ways to cut back on the expensive nature of this project. But needless to say, we're pretty worried about what financially is to come. There's really no good transition to go from that, so I'll just say we're going to go to stormwater utility. In our stormwater utility, we'll be finishing up the final plans of a stormwater project on the southwest side of the city. This will improve the South Oak, South Elm, South Walnut, and Vine Street areas, managing storm surges that tend to flood this low area. The Board of Works will make a decision in the coming months on when to move forward with construction. Now, in our electric utility, we'll have a pretty major change this year, as our current department head, Larry Whetstone, will be retiring from the department. I appreciate Larry's commitment to our customers, and if you will you join me in appreciating him for his 10 years of service with the city. Thank you, Larry. Taking his place will be current Supervisor Sean Leckie. I believe that Sean will bring his own style and focus to the job while still maintaining a high level of service to our customers. The department will also finish the Christmas light replacements this year. We plan to purchase new Christmas decorations for the courthouse square while keeping the items that still look pretty good. Now, one major initiative that I'll be introducing in the near future will be for the city water and electric department's exit from the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. It's a fact that over 84% of all water and electric utilities in Indiana have opted out of the IURC. Cherubusco, South Whitley, and recently the Northeastern REMC all have withdrawn from the IURC in the past, some as far back as the early 1990s. This leaves us as the sole member from Whitley County. Late last year, the Northeastern REMC held a vote and unanimously, the members voted to opt out. The IURC continues to cost our customers through unending reports, drawn-out rate cases, and laborious questionnaires. Some may ask what the difference would be. Well, the short answer is dollars. In the last rate case, we estimate that the elongated process cost us well over $20,000 in man-hours and service, not to mention an estimated loss in revenue of over $300,000. The long answer is, well, really not much will change. For any rate increases for electric or water, we still would have public hearings and notices. The public trust would still be put in front and center of all issues. All other regulatory agencies would still be reviewing our financial statements and keeping an eye on us. Now, this move would save us thousands of dollars on consultants and different man-hours, while allowing us the ability to keep decisions locally. Let's make the same decision that over 80% of the other utilities in the state have made. Let's choose to save our ratepayers this monetary loss and protect the fiscal health of our utilities. In 2013, we looked to put a strong emphasis on community development. Now, this term, community development, is basically the embodiment of our little catchphrase. Community development means to make our community a great place to live, work, and play. With this in mind, multiple improvements will be taking place. First, a new entryway sign will be constructed near South State Road 9, welcoming visitors into our community. The Youth Council and Electric Department are scheduled to assist in this venture. And we also hope to begin other entryway beautification projects in the near future. Another way to say welcome to visitors is a new Android app for the city. As noted earlier, 2012 brought a smartphone app to the iPhone. This year, it's my goal to add an app for the Android phone. This will give both system users a portal to our community. It will also increase residents' ability to communicate with our elected officials. The Parks Department plans to add new restrooms at the north end of the park, as many of you know, near the new bridge over the Blue River Trail, and extend the Blue River Trail between Main Street and Line Street. The extension of our trail system and parks in general further the quality of life amenities that are critical to attracting families to our community. Thus, we continue to look for opportunities to expand programs that invite and attract people to Columbia City. Some additional goals for 2013 include a new comprehensive community development plan and the restart of the Columbia City Housing Authority. First, the plan. As I've noted since the campaign, our community is in need of a defined direction. We need a coordinated plan that will help us prioritize projects and prepare for the future. We need a course that's laid out for the best results. So in order to save dollars, the city will be applying for a planning grant through the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. The grant will pay for 90% of the plan, while the city will have to come up with the last 10%. Now, as a reminder, these grant dollars are made up of money that our residents have already sent to the federal government. This is one way we can keep those dollars at home. Now, regarding the Housing Authority, I plan to restart this group in 2013. It has been dormant for some time, and I truly believe, with the multitude of vacant and foreclosed homes throughout our community, that the time is now for the reactivation of this important group of citizens. We must begin to put an emphasis on our declining housing stock and the lowering values of property littered through our neighborhoods. Or we can face the potential for rising crime and lowered revenues. I'm very excited to see what this group, what a difference this group will make in our community. The final topic I want to touch on today has actually little to do with projects and has a lot to do with the future of our great community. Recently, I've given a brief overview of the Trust Local campaign. I'd like to discuss that in more details and in depth so our residents can have an understanding of why their mayor is so involved at the legislature. I've always believed that the government closest to the people is the best for the people. Residents come into my office daily to discuss issues they have and get, well, basically immediate responses and solutions. It's quite difficult to get these same quick responses at the state and federal level due to a larger bureaucracy. This is in no way, trying to be disrespectful to our state officials. I have the highest regard for the great pair of legislators that represent Columbia City, Representative Kathy Hewer and Senator Jim Banks. In fact, these individuals, unlike some of their colleagues, consistently work with me to see how legislation would affect our community, and I greatly, greatly appreciate that. The fact of the matter remains that some legislation in the past few years has dramatically limited your local government's ability to adequately serve you through fiscal and regulatory means. Shouldn't we at the local level be able to choose at least a portion of our own destiny? With these complicated matters in mind, the Indiana Conference of Mayors took a step forward and said it's time to start trusting local again. Basically, this means that we, as local, popularly elected officials, are asking our state government to, of course, handle the big stuff, keep at it, but leave the local issues to us. In the past, an issue may crop up in a community hundreds of miles from here, and yet the legislature has tried to push that issue on all Indiana cities and towns. All we, as the elected mayors of Indiana, are asking is to allow problems that are local to be solved locally. This is the reason why I feel it's so critical for our future to play a role in what laws our state legislature is passing. In sitting on the legislative committee and the board of directors for the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns, I get frequent updates regarding laws that would dramatically harm Columbia City and our ability to provide the many services that we offer. Just this year, as an example, we have been dealing with laws that range from the elimination of cable franchise fees, a move that would cost the city over $45,000 annually, to the regulation of residential apartments, which would have effectively eliminated our ability to inspect residential units for livability and safety. I believe that my job requires me to be a voice for our community, and as long as this community will have me, I'll be that voice. So, in a nutshell, and as stated earlier, much is still left to be done, but the state of our city is promising. When running for office, I pledge to be upfront and honest about everything that I do. I also promise to do the right thing for the health, safety, and quality of life in Columbia City. I feel that these projects and initiatives that were previously laid out will help grow and strengthen our infrastructure and quality of life. Yes, storms may come, and the wind, as it did last year, may blow pretty hard. But you can be assured that your city departments and elected officials are hard at working for whatever comes our way. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think it's time for questions. Does anybody have questions? It's all silent on the Western Front. I answered everybody's questions. Yes.
I'll be that person. Parking downtown. Have you guys considered paid parking so that those that are female business owners downtown are not walking 2 blocks at night by themselves?
Well, actually, yes, we have considered paid parking. We've considered basically anything that anybody's ever brought to us about parking. The issue that we've found with paid parking is that by having a paid parking lot, we would be taking parking away from other venues. So it doesn't mean that we're not looking for it, but I think what we found from a lot of our business owners and well, I'll just say our business owners in the downtown area, that if anything is maybe more than a block away, then we haven't gotten the feeling that they'd be willing to pay for it, let's say it that way. Typically, from what we've heard from business owners and from other individuals in the downtown, they're looking within the half-block range. And if you look at our downtown infrastructure, you'll see that there's not a lot of parking, a lot of big area parking anywhere there. So we've looked at it. I can't say we won't continue to look at opportunities like that. If there's an area that becomes available that we can try to maneuver into a paid parking area, I think we definitely take a look at that. So does that answer your question? Thank you. Other questions? Okay. Hearing none, I guess I thank you again for allowing me to kind of give you this little overview of what happened last year and what's to come this year. I hope that you heard some optimism in my voice, but also some caution in the future with kind of an uncertainty on the horizon. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. A few weeks ago, the mayor and I were at a conference. Well, it was a conference, I suppose, with the governor, and he was described by the governor, Governor Pence, as one of the dynamic young leaders in Indiana, and I do agree with that. You had mentioned a little bit about the storm through the Old Settlers days, and just to tell you a little bit about my feelings about the mayor. I think that situation, as the storm kind of blew through and wiped out a lot of not-for-profit tents and things that were fundraisers for these not-for-profits, and we were considering whether it would need to be canceled. Just watching the mayor with quiet confidence and just calming voice saying, this is going to be okay, and everything is fine, and Old Settlers is going to go on as planned. It's just going to be a little bit late. Right then and there, when helping him with picking up trash and doing the things that we were doing, I was incredibly impressed. So we've picked a winner. So thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming out today to hear that, and to kind of wrap up the day a little bit. Our sponsor, CenturyLink, and Beth Ann Stratman is going to come up and talk to you here for just a minute.